Today's story is a little story about a single lady who had very little to give. But what she gave made a big impression on Jesus. So before we talk about her, let's think about some things that we have learned and see if we can remember them. When we learned about the armor of God, we learned the battles in our heart, the battles for our heart. And the armor of God is to protect our heart. And if we would stand still and stay calm, God will fight for us. Wow, that's a big concept. And then the last couple of days, we've learned some really, really good thoughts about being responsible. And if we're faithful in little things, we will be blessed and God will give us more responsibility because we're going to be faithful in bigger things. And so when we are faithful in our little tasks, we will be found faithful in our big tasks. Everybody wants the big tasks, but sometimes we don't do really well in the little ones. And then today, if you did soap with me, we learned that we serve Jesus. And whatever we do, we should do willingly, honoring him, because ultimately, he's who we serve. So when we disrespect our parents, because the Bible tells us to obey our parents, we're disrespecting Jesus. And we wouldn't want to do that. Wow, this is a lot to think about. Well, this lady was coming to church. And before we talk about her again, let's talk about the other people that were there. There were some people there who were giving their offering. And some very wealthy people who were giving their offering. Some of them would come and have big bags and drop them in the bucket, make a big noise so people would actually cheer for them. Others would open the bag and drop it out, so it made an even bigger noise when all the coins fell, clink, 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 clink. And so people would turn and notice them. Some even brought people to play instruments to announce that they were giving their offering. And it was all about bringing attention to them. So although they were giving to God, that's a good thing. They were bringing attention to themselves. That's not a good thing. Because we learned that Jesus is the light of the world. When he lives in our heart, we reflect his light. And when people notice us, we should point people back to him, not to ourselves. We shouldn't take credit for the blessings that God's given us to be able to give more. Some of you can give a lot because God's blessed you a lot. And that's great because the Bible tells us the more we have, the more we should give. Some of you don't have a lot, and that's okay too, because you can give out of what you have. And that's the important lesson of today, because there was a widow, and that means she lived by herself. Her husband had died, and she didn't have a way to take care of herself, really. She had to do whatever she could to make money, and people would help her and give her food and give her things. But she came to church. She came to the temple, and she had 2 mites, which is probably about the same of us having 2 pennies. And she took her 2 pennies, 2 mites, and she put them in the offering. Some people would look down their nose at her like, oh, that's all she has to give? 2 little mites? What is that? Look at these people who have given so much. Jesus looked to his disciples and said, she has given the most. Because these others gave out of their abundance. They had so much more at home. They took part of what they had and gave it. That was great. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good. But Jesus looks on the heart. There's not faith when you have more at home. She took all that she had. And she said, God, I love you so much. I'm going to give you everything. And it's not just about money. It's about time, our talent, our abilities. Like, how much time do we spend with God? Or how much time do we spend playing with our games or on TV? How much do we give to God of the money we make or the money we have? Do we bless God back with what he's blessed us with? Those are some big things to think about. And you know what? Sometimes even adults have a hard time with that. But God wants us to give out of a heart of gratitude and thankfulness. Can you say attitude of gratitude? Very good. Say it one more time. Say attitude of gratitude. So very good. And so as we think about what we do, we need to think about who we're doing it for, Jesus, why we're doing it, to honor him and to reflect his light to those around us. And when we do things, we need to use it as an opportunity to share the good news of the gospel of Jesus. So when you think about serving, you don't have to do a big thing. You can do a little thing with the right heart attitude, and it becomes a big thing because Jesus wants to see your heart. He wants to see what's on the inside, and that's what's important to him. And you are important to him. Have a good night.